Who is your favourite 6'8" walking life support machine of a galactic overlord? Darth Vader? That's weird, me too. With his menacing helmet, rasping breath and monstrous temper, his appeal spans generations and sets him apart as a character so unforgettable that we can even forgive him the sand-based pickup lines he used in his teens. Father of Luke, apprentice of Obi-Wan and builder of 3PO, the Sith Lord, or his light-side juvenile counterpart, ties in with almost every major event across the entire saga. But things could have turned out very, very differently for our beefy Burns victim, with decisions made right from the character's conception through to his latest on-screen appearance. Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader could have been changed beyond recognition, and in turn, every Star Wars movie could have been nothing like what we know, love, and love some more today. I'm Peter from Whatculture.com, and here are 8 ways Darth Vader almost turned out completely different. Number 8. Anakin's betrayal was nothing to do with Padme. As he wrapped up Return of the Jedi, George Lucas started coming up with the first broad strokes of the prequel narrative: Palpatine's political rise to power and Anakin's fall to the dark side and eventual dip in a lava pool. However, Anakin's journey to the dark side sounds like it was originally more of a whodunit serial killer story in space, with him turning against the Jedi and slowly cutting them down one by one, and Obi-Wan eventually solving the mystery. Sounds a little less three-dimensional than the reasons we were eventually given, but on the other hand, it might have saved us from all that weird foot-in-mouth flirting we sat through. I mean, who the hell comes out and says, "You're exactly how I remember you in my dreams"? God, did it hurt when you fell from heaven, Padme? Number 7. The Emperor wasn't his master. In the very early drafts of Star Wars, the Emperor was far from the big bad that the character would eventually become. He was conceived as little more than a puppet, essentially acting as the face of the Empire but being controlled behind the scenes by the various admirals, including Peter Cushing's Grand Moff Tarkin. As a result, Vader would have had no Sith Master and thus been more of a wild card, an agent of the Empire above the control of the not-so-Force-sensitive admirals. But even when it was decided that the Emperor would indeed be the evil dictator we all love to hate, it was up in the air how much control he would actually have over Vader. He transitioned through incarnations where, despite being able to jumpstart a stopped heart at 40 paces, he wasn't classed as a Sith Lord, or even where he had no lightning powers whatsoever. Crazy. Number 6, he had a blue lightsaber. Hold the f***ing phone, some bits of Star Wars iconography just can't be messed with. There's such a perfect visual shorthand for identifying factions in the Star Wars movies that there's next to no need for hammy exposition. Anyone wearing grey and speaking with a British accent is an evil Imperial. The Rebels had a more cobbled together look, setting them apart from their enemies. And of course, if someone's carrying a red saber, you can bet your last Republic credit that they're a Sith Lord. However, concept art by Ralph McQuarrie, based on an earlier draft of the script, suggests that this wasn't always the case. Here, Darth Vader wields a blue blade, and Deke Starkiller, a brother of the character that would eventually become Luke, has a gold one. From a modern perspective, it seems bizarre, and given how many of McQuarrie's original drawings ended up entering the galaxy far, far away completely unchanged, we're lucky it didn't stick. Number 5, he died before the Emperor. During the writing and production of episodes 4 and 5, the universe was becoming so expansive that further trilogies seemed inevitable. However, before Lucas had even written episode 6, he was planning on a sequel trilogy rather than the prequels that popped up at the turn of the century. Nothing like the sequels we're going to see over the next few years, Lucas thought they would follow Luke on the hunt for his sister, who wasn't Leia because that arc hadn't been written at the time, with the two finally teaming up to take on the Emperor in the equivalent of episode 9. Because of this, it meant Lucas envisaged only the death of Vader in the climax of episode 6, which was originally called Revenge of the Jedi. The Sith Lord would have potentially died without his light side redemption, shunting him back into a shallower supporting role comparable to someone like Dooku, and bumping Sidious up to the focal villain. Number 4, he was a minor character and not even called Vader. One of the things that takes some serious mental crowbarring for me is trying to work into the story the fact that in A New Hope, Obi-Wan comes out with, "You can't win, Darth," and "Only a master of evil, Darth," as though it's Vader's first name when, as we know, it's in fact a title that you're not really meant to use on its own. I like to pretend he's just using the word mockingly, like, "Ooh, check you out, you're a Sith now, Darth. How does it feel, Darth?" But however you dress it up, there's really no two ways about it. Before it was retconned into being a Sith title in later movies, the Vader of A New Hope was literally called Darth Vader. Lord Darth Vader, Mr. D. Vader of Number 1, the Death Star. In earlier versions of A New Hope, things were even weirder. The first draft featured General Darth Vader, a rather unremarkable Imperial officer with only a few appearances, while a completely different Sith Lord stood in the evil limelight. Had things gone differently in Lucas's mind on the day of the rewrite, we could very easily have ended up with a chap in uniform called Darth Vader getting force choked by a Lord Vader who wasn't called Darth Vader at all. You keeping up? Me neither. Number 3, he died at the end of A New Hope. The only non-droid, non-ghost character to have appeared in all 6 of the Lucas movies is Anakin or Vader. The original trilogy seemed to be about Luke when it was first crafted, but when you look at the whole thing together, the first 6 movies are clearly the story of Anakin Skywalker's descent into darkness and eventual redemption. So it's insane to think that once upon a time the Vader/Valorum character was going to die at the end of the very first film. A minor Imperial with some Force powers, his role was essentially to say very little and show off the dark side to the audience before kicking the bucket all in the space of one film, not unlike Darth Maul in Episode 1. Imagine where the saga might have gone if Lucas had gone ahead. We might have missed out on one of cinema's biggest revelations, for one thing. Oh yeah, about that. Number 2, he wasn't Luke's father. Even in very late drafts of Empire, Vader's bombshell in Cloud City is actually that Obi-Wan killed Luke's father. Looking at early versions of A New Hope, the "I am your father" line was obviously made up super last minute. Vader was very much a distinct character from so-called Anakin Starkiller in all drafts of the first film, and Obi-Wan's conversations with Luke are clearly meant to be taken pretty much literally until it's all clumsily retconned with this line.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
Stop backpedaling, Kenobi. From a certain point of view, you're full of shit. And number 1, he wore no mask. Vader's mask is by far the most iconic element of the character, his deep, menacing breaths emanating from its soulless face. The scene in which Anakin is encased in armor in Revenge of the Sith is perfectly punctuated as the mask closes around his face, the music cuts, and Vader takes his very first breath. That moment had much more impact than any line of dialogue ever could have. So thank God the mask actually made it into the saga, because it was seriously touch and go at one point. When concept artist Ralph McQuarrie realised Vader would be travelling from one ship to another in the opening of A New Hope, he suggested to Lucas that he should be wearing a breathing mask. Soon though, Lucas wanted to see more of this then minor character in his movie, realising just how alluringly menacing the respirator was. Before the mask was added, the plan was just to have the actor's face out in the open with the character potentially sporting some sort of samurai-inspired armour. Not only would this have made Vader immediately less intimidating and mysterious, it would have in turn weakened the film's effect and iconography. The missing helmet wouldn't have just led to a completely different Vader, but a completely different Star Wars. And that's our list. Do you know something about Vader that we don't? Tell us about it in the comments below. As always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can come and chat with me and Whatculture on Twitter here and here. I'm Peter from Whatculture.com, and I'll see you soon.